must remain outside the perimeter.
A 50-ton army tank.
Giant tank.
Get out of the street.
Drove it through these gates onto the streets of Perth.
Police hanging back, concerned about the tank's potential firepower.
This guy is definitely armed.
This isn't a radical idea.
Gary Hayes of Scarborough appeared in court this morning, charged with causing damage.
In the early hours of April 27th, 1993, a military tank was stolen and a one-man war was waged against the city of Perth, leading to one of the most exciting things to have ever happened to Western Australia. This is the legend of the Perth Tank Rampage. I've been alive my entire life and I only heard about this rampage recently. So I did what any man in his 30s would do. I obsessed over this pivotal piece of Perth's past. So, as an educator, chronicler, and historian, I feel it is my duty to bring this tale to you, the unwashed masses. Information online was fairly scarce, with a bare-bones Wikipedia article and 15 seconds of footage on YouTube titled The Sydney Tank Rampage of 1993. It wasn't Sydney, it was in Perth. So the first port of call was to go to the State Library of Western Australia and dig up any old newspaper articles I could find about the event at the time. And let me tell you, what I bloody found was a bloody picture. Oh, bloody hell. The tale starts with Gary Hayes, a man in his late 20s who didn't like the police. There isn't a lot of hard evidence, but the general consensus is they gave him a pretty hard time. And after a few years of this, he'd had enough. And that takes us to 4 AM on the 27th of April 1993. Following the time-honoured tradition of striking your enemies just before dawn when they're at their weakest, Gary stumbled up the driveway of Irwin Military Barracks, located near Karrakatta, hopped in an M113, an armoured personnel carrier, and just drove on out of there. Taking down 2 fences on his way out. From there, he casually drove the 3.5 kilometres down Broadway Terrace to the Wembley police station. At maximum speed, it would have taken him about 3.5 minutes, but old mate Gary didn't know how to disengage the handbrake, so it took him significantly longer. It was at this time a passing police car marked Tango 6 saw the passing APC and radioed in to police headquarters.
Oh, you won't believe this, mate, but we're trying to pull up a tank in Salvado Road.
Trying to pull up a what?
Yeah, tank. It's driving around the streets, got a bloke driving it. We've got our blue lights on, but he won't stop.
A tank? A tank with guns or what?
Actually, it's an APC. He doesn't want to stop for us. He's seen us, but he won't stop.
What? One of those armoured vehicles? Is it on tracks or wheels or what?
Roger, mate. It's on tracks. Do you reckon you can call the MPs?
I can't stress this enough. All of this is true. I wish I could write this well. Upon arriving at Wembley Police Station, Gary Hayes smashed through an asbestos fence, it was the early 90s, and rammed the police car through a brick garage. Just quietly, I love this picture, because you can see the outline of the car in the brick wall. Good job, Gary. Nice, Gary. The asbestos fences have since been replaced with metal ones? I don't know, I'm not a fence guy. And you can still see the same brick garage that Gary rammed a police car into, albeit with some new brickwork. Coming out of the police car park, he rammed into another cop car and pushed that cop car into a light pole before taking off towards Perth City. Poor Tango 6. He couldn't do anything about it. He just had to watch helplessly as his mates' cars were getting smashed around by a tank. And then more cop cars started arriving, probably out of sheer morbid curiosity than anything.
He's wiped out 2 general duties vans. He'll take him out if they get near him. He's heading towards the city. I don't know what we're gonna do to stop this thing.
This ruckus woke up sleeping neighbour Marco, who ran outside to see what was making all this noise.
I raced out there and I just caught this personnel carrier pushing a police van across Cambridge Street into a pole, and I saw 2 police officers completely in shock. I saw the silhouette of the guy pop up and have a look around before he drove off down Cambridge Street. This guy is definitely army. I mean, not just anyone could drive one of those things like that. He knew what he was doing.
Isn't that interesting? What a bloody mystery. How could Gary Hayes, average citizen, know how to drive a military vehicle like that? We'll bloody get back to that one.
There had been 2 occupants in the van. One was in shock because apparently his friend had just pulled him out in the nick of time. The van was absolutely smashed to bits.
Gary rumbled along into the city, where he circled the Parliament House a few times before heading towards the police headquarters in East Perth. The poor cops couldn't do anything but follow him, resulting in a very low-speed chase through the city streets.
Have we got anything back from the army to the status of these things? Are they armed? Because if this bloke starts to get nasty,
The duty inspector is on the phone, and I'm waiting for someone to come and see me.
then let's get some bastards out of bed.
Roger. I've got nothing from the army to say he's not armed. I'll take care at this stage.
Eyewitnesses to the event have said that he obeyed all the road rules, stopped at traffic lights, and indicated when he meant to turn. I mean, say what you will about this man, but at least he was a considerate driver. Now, I don't know if this is true, but it probably is, because anytime I've doubted something in this story, I've looked it up and it's turned out to be accurate. Gary actually used his indicators at one point to trick the police. He indicated to the left and then turned right, and it bamboozled the police for a hot second.
Hey, he's turning left!
Gary arrived at Perth Police headquarters and made his presence known by smashing through the gates and destroying a bunch of cop cars and motorbikes. Apparently, he saw about 6 or 7 in a row, just practically begging to be run over by an armoured personnel carrier piloted by a man who's upset with the police. And like, how can you resist?
All cars to remain outside the perimeter. Central Base, do you have him in sight?
He's reversing up. He's still reversing. He's going toward the canteen. We have a Delta bloke here armed with a shotgun. He's just ramming cars, going right over the top of it. He's smashed the hell out of a few cars.
Roger, Central Base. Keep us informed.
He's right up against the back of a bongo van. He's reversing now. He's gone right over the top of the bongo van. He's gone mad. He's just run over another car.
Roger, Central Base. I don't know if you've been monitoring this, but we are unaware that he is armed. So all care.
Roger, mate. He's just about to knock over my bike. The bastard.
Looking at Central Base now, you can see what the poor guy was watching as his bike got trounced. There was a very real fear that he was going to ram the APC into the bottom floor of the building, but he just wanted to fuck up some cars. The building looks completely abandoned now, outside of the few cars out the back. Maybe this is where the undercover police work takes place. Who knows? Hopefully these guys in the military didn't get too upset about me hovering outside the Irwin barracks and 2 police stations with a video camera. That'd be worrying, will it? Anyway, within a few minutes, 8 police cars and an unconfirmed number of motorbikes were destroyed. The APC then left the Perth police station and headed towards the Central Law Courts, where it rammed the building. There were a lot of roadworks happening to the building when we went and took a look. That was annoying. Gary then drove back to Parliament House, where he just chilled out for 40 minutes, probably to like enjoy the view, watch some YouTube on his phone, and have his breakfast that he brought with him. Sit there with a bowl of porridge in the deck, and then headed into Northbridge to the CIB building, which I've discovered stands for Criminal Investigation Branch and not Crunchy Ice Cream Bars, like I thought. No. They solved crimes there. According to witnesses, he tried to drive into the building, but he was stopped by the bollards, which is bloody fair enough. I tried knocking one down and the thing wouldn't budge. And I'm fucking ripped as well, look at this. I also had a look around for any signs of tank damage, and there wasn't any. It's bloody disgusting the way they just tear down history and stuff. He then headed back to Parliament House, where he had a chat with the police negotiators. They were all like,
Hop out of the tank.
nah.
Oh, come on, don't be a dickhead.
Nah.
If you hop out, I'll give you a surprise.
What's the surprise?
Oh, you have to hop out of the tank and come get it.
Ah, almost had me.
Almost got ya.
Gary took off again, heading down St. George's Terrace. Now, this is where the cool cop commando stuff started happening. At this point, the Tactical Response Group, the TERGs, our version of SWAT, had situated themselves all throughout the city. They're called the TERGs. What are they called?
They're called the TRG.
The TRG, all right, the TRG. There's rumours that a cop hopped onto the APC by jumping off of a moving car going in the opposite direction, like an action movie hero. And another cop was laying in wait on top of a bus shelter, and he jumped off of that onto the tank. That's pretty impressive. Those bus shelters are almost impossible to climb. I should know, I've tried, and I'm pretty much as equally athletic as the TRG guy. Gary realized that there were people on top of the tank, and he tried to shake them off by driving through more bus shelters, but these guys were absolute chads, and once they were on the tank, he was done. Gary's undoing was the fact that he didn't know how to close the hatch on the tank. So all the ninja cops had to do was lift the lid and throw in a few canisters of tear gas. He couldn't take it. A few moments later, the tank pulled up onto the corner of Murray and Barrack Street, and out popped Gary. Then he was promptly arrested. After the fact, the army commander of the Western region, Brigadier Terry Nolan, said that he had no idea about the theft until the police called him up.
There clearly aren't too many people own army personnel carriers, so we presumed right from the outset it was one of ours.
Imagine that, you're sitting at your desk at 4:30 in the morning, and then your bloody phone rings.
Hey, we're chasing a tank down Hay Street. Is it yours?
1 second. And you just lean back and look out the window and, oh, for fuck's sake. There were originally plans to maybe jam a log in the APC's tracks, or bring out another APC to take out the tank, which I kind of wish happened, because how dope would that have been? Tank versus tank in the ultimate showdown in Western Australia. Who will come out on top? That or the log thing, that would have been pretty funny. When he was asked about why it was so easy to steal a tank, Brigadier Terry Nolan responded.
Well, if you'd have asked me this yesterday, I would have said it's not easy to do it, but the evidence of this morning would indicate it's perhaps easier than I thought.
What a lad. It should be noted that the tank was completely unarmed the entire time. Security efforts at the military base were focused on munitions and weaponry. The vehicles, not so much. Just leave the keys in the ignition, who cares? But that's all changed since the incident, obviously. Now that's not the end of the glorious tank's tale. After Gary was defeated, the tank was taken back to the military base and cleaned up. The radiator was blown because Gaza didn't lift off the back cover, and it was mostly cooked mechanically, but they got it back up and running. A few months later, the famous personnel carrier was put on display at a military recruitment drive, and kids were allowed to sit inside the beast. Unfortunately, the inside of the tank wasn't properly cleaned out, and a lot of kids were inadvertently tear gassed. See, they touch all the buttons and all the knobs and joysticks, and then touch their face. And then, bammo, kids are walking away with the lifelong fear of armoured personnel carriers, and they have no idea why. Coincidentally, the reason Gary knew how to operate one of these armoured personnel carriers was because he went to a similar recruitment drive the year before, and they showed him how to do everything. Apart from lifting up the handbrake, of course. Gary was arrested on several charges and was admitted to Greylands Mental Hospital, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, where he stayed for several years. He was eventually released and went on to live a quiet life until he passed away in the year 2017. And it was on this very same street corner where Gary was defeated that I thought it would be neat to ask the people of Perth if they remember the tale of the Tank Man. So we're here in Perth City, right where Gary Hayes, legendary tank man, was stopped by the police. We're going to ask people a few questions to see if they remember the story of Gary Hayes, tank hero. Unfortunately, no one really knew anything, or they didn't really want to talk to us. That was until we met these two dead set legends. Do you want to be in a video? Do you want to ask? Yeah. So, you guys from Perth?
I'm from Lansing.
I'm from Victoria.
Oh, perfect. So, do you guys know the story of the Perth Tank Rampage of 1993?
No.
Before I tell you the story, what would make you guys want to steal a tank?
Oh,
Just because.
Just because?
Just to run them over.
Just run them over? No, the cops. Funny you say that, because that's exactly why he stole it.
Oh, what a fucking legend. Hey, give us a 5, that was big.
He hopped in the tank and just drove out, straight out of the military barracks.
Yep.
Walked in through the front
Who's going to
gate.
stop him with a tank?
Yeah, but they didn't know.
And I stole a cop car.
You stole a cop car?
Yeah.
He stole with a tank.
You guys are related.
You don't know the rest of it.
Yeah, okay. So what's your last name? Is it Hayes as well?
Reed.
No? Okay. Hayes Reed, almost same number of letters. The next year they used the tank in a recruitment drive, and they let kids go in the tank because there was still tear gas in the tank. So they were touching the tank, touching their faces, and just tear gassing little kids.
What? What the hell?
The reason he knew how to steal the tank, how to drive the tank, was because there was a recruitment drive the year before, and they taught him how to drive the tank.
Shit.
What they didn't teach him was how to take the handbrake off. So he was driving around Perth City with a handbrake on. It's a very slow rampage.
Got him.
Yeah. But I just want to get some people's opinions on the story and what they thought of it.
He's a fucking legend.
Yeah?
Yes, honestly.
Frank the tank.
Frank the tank!
I'm going to do some research on this now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to actually find out where he's buried and where.
Yeah.
Because obviously from Perth, so he's going to be around here somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, that was fun.
I told you to be the best one. I think we're done. Now we come to the final question of this tale. Where is the APC of legend now? Where could it possibly... I found it! I found it. I can't keep the suspense any longer. We found the tank. We found the armoured personnel carrier. So we're not actually allowed to film inside those fences. I asked permission. I wasn't given it. So this is a bit of a covert operation. So we're going to be a bit sneaky anyway. Because nothing is more important than a YouTube video. Let's bloody go down there and bloody... We're here at the Fremantle Military Museum in front of what is allegedly the same M113 that Gary Hayes stole in 1993 to attack Western Australian police. This beast weighs about 10.9 tonnes, which is about the same as 10 one-tonne cars, plus one slightly smaller car, and stands at 2.4 metres tall, the average height of most basketballers. This bad boy can reach a top speed of 65 kilometers per hour when driven by anyone that isn't Gary Hayes. See, it has a 3-speed transmission system. Gary never took it out of first gear. He didn't know how. The M113s are obsolete now, and the Army hasn't used them in any recent deployments. I, for one, look forward to the development of the new line of M114s. That was a bad joke, and I apologise profusely. And that is the tale of Gary Hayes and his rampage. He damaged property, police property, but no one was injured or harmed. And I think that speaks to the fact that deep down he was a good guy, just with a few problems. Everything I've read about him speaks to that fact, and he was just having a rough time with the police and finally snapped. It just goes to show what happens when you push someone too far. And why were the police harassing him? What is the final piece to this puzzle? What was the inciting incident that led to all of this? He tried to steal $78,000 worth of anti-terrorism equipment from the military the year before. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I feel like that's a bit of a justification to try and keep an eye on someone. But that's a story for another time. No, it's not. I'm done. And that was the tale of Gary the Tank Man. If you like this video, check out this video on the Emu War. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah.